Hi, this is Ryan Giffen with Premier Presents. Today I've got a special guest with me, Dr. Milton Chen. Thank you so much for being here. Milton Chen has many accolades on his resume that would make anyone's eyebrows raise. First being an early developer and researcher on the Sesame Street workshop. Very instrumental in developing curriculum and the targeted path for where Sesame Street is on now, which is one of the largest educational media tools in the world.
Yes.
But also, Milton served as the executive director for the George Lucas Education Foundation for many years, piloted the Edutopia initiative with media and learning.
Yes.
Our first question for you today will be addressing early learning and the impacts, obviously your experience with Sesame Street, the impacts of early learning and maybe how our thinking can shift to be more effective.
Yeah, I think some of our best thinking about the future of education comes from learning about our youngest learners. Somehow when it comes to preschoolers, we have this idea, we don't just want them to sit in chairs and listen to their teacher and take a test and that's going to be our measure of what they're learning. We understand that they are children who use their entire bodies to learn. They need to move, they use their hands and all of their senses, that music and the arts is important. So one of the first lessons I learned about learning was from Sesame Workshop in the 1970s when I was working there, that all children can learn more and earlier than we think they can if they're given the right experience. Sesame Street was a program that we had never seen before, and the results, the evaluation from Sesame Street showed that kids were learning more earlier, so that even the kindergarten curriculum had to be changed because kids already knew their letters and numbers coming into kindergarten. So we want to apply that thinking to children as they go through the K-12 years.
How did that thinking of how to reach this younger generation of learners translate into what you were doing with Edutopia and how to reach a different generation or different age of learners? Yeah,
certainly as we look at the K-12 years, from the time a child is 5 through 18, we want to continue that idea of youth engagement. I like the way in which engagement is now used in school districts. They understand we need to reach kids and find out what gets them interested in learning. There's so many things that could be learned these days. There's so many ways in which we can learn these days. I think we can get farther more quickly with our students if we ask them, what are you interested in? And build a curriculum around that. Mr. Lucas, for instance, was someone who was interested in cars. Well, if someone's interested in automobiles, you could build a STEM curriculum around that. You could build an arts curriculum around the design of cars. You could look at the history of the automobile. So you begin to connect up with so many different topics based on an interest that a student might have.
To give hope to the efforts of the American educator. I heard you say earlier today about some of the great things that American education is doing. Talk briefly about where you think American education is doing well and what we can do to continue that as a model for success.
Well, I think there are a couple of factors and forces coming together in the middle of this second decade of the 21st century. I sometimes say that 2010 was really the first year of the 21st century in education, because we began to see how the internet and digital devices were maturing, providing all sorts of learning experiences, even courses, complete courses that could be taken by middle school students, high school students, even college courses that begin to get them started even earlier. So varying the age at which kids learn things. These low-cost devices, the iPad, these tablets that are incredibly powerful for the cost of roughly a textbook. If we're paying $175 for one textbook, well, over the course of 3 or 5 years, we can give kids the digital device, we can give them access to the internet. So things are shifting now. The role of the teacher is changing, the role of the student in taking more responsibility for your learning. If we're going to have the learning based more on your interests, we want to have you take more responsibility for your learning. So I'm very excited about this, the second decade of the 21st century. We're beginning to see many new models for digital learning and kids learning more faster, taking advantage of more learning time as well during the afternoons, evenings, weekends, and summer.
Milton Chen is one of my most favorite speakers to work with. He constantly brings in incredible reviews from organizations that we work with, schools, national education groups, and even internationally with the over 14 countries or however many countries you've visited over the last few years. But we definitely think that he would be an asset and an investment for your organization or your school district to bring him in. And we look forward to booking Milton Chen for your next event.
Thank you, Ryan.
I appreciate it.